Peace and power, family. Peace and power. Peace and power. This is Brother Marcus Sankofa Nix, and I am Director of Operations at the Temple of New African Thought, where our minister, Sardinus Winkler, serves as our minister at the Temple of New African Thought, located in Baltimore, Maryland, 3221 Bel Air Road. And so we're here this evening. And so been a little while since we've been on air, but nevertheless, we're here. We're back for a wonderful cause, a noteworthy cause, because we want all of you who are tuning out, who are tuning in, who are listening local, near, and far, to be informed and to be aware of our upcoming third annual Into Festival. That's right, family. We are going to be having our third annual Into Festival, and it's going to be taking place. It's the first weekend in August, and that's going to be a 2-day event on Sunday, August 4th, and then Saturday, August 5th. Now, family, let me tell you, this event is going to be like none other. This event is going to be an event of healing, an event of growth, empowerment, transformation, and much more. So we're going to be riding along the theme for this year, breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. And so pretty much reflects the interconnectedness and the spiritual essence that will bring us closer together. So it is that, my friends and family, that we will aim to do to come closer together throughout this event. But for day one, Saturday, August 4th, for the price of $20, and you can register at templeofnat.org. That's our website. You go on there and you register for both days. But for day one, that's $20. We have a panel discussion, and this panel discussion, family, is going to be centered around that theme. And so we have an extensive panel that will be speaking to the subject and the theme at hand, all giving their perspectives. We have scholars, we have practitioners, we have activists, we have those who have dedicated much of their time in their lives to being able to empower and raise up folks who look like you and me. So nevertheless, we invite you to come on out. It's going to be powerful. So if you happen to want to know who is going to serve on that panel, we have Ishmael Murray, a herbalist, a certified holistic health practitioner. We have Baba Imhotep Fatiyu, who is the first urban philosopher, founder of Pan-African Liberation Movement, and he's also an author. We also have Dr. Henry Gregory, who is a psychotherapist, a scholar, and an author. We have Sifu Asar Winkler Sr., who at the Temple of New African Thought, who we affectionately refer to as Baba. He's also a martial arts instructor, and he's the founder of Sokima, Spirit of Kemet, Internal Martial Arts Academy. Dr. Max T. Ragland will also take part in the panel discussion. He is a psychotherapist and an author. David Murphy, activist, publisher of National Black Unity News, will take part, and Dr. Jared Ball, scholar, educator, and social political commentator, will take part in our panel discussion. And we have our sister Kenyatta Macon Moon, an educator and founder of Insroma Academy, will also take part in our discussion. And so last and most certainly not least, a brother who is also going to take part in the panel discussion, a brother who is also going to be the keynote speaker for the following day, and the brother who we're going to be soon and very soon having a very a wonderful dialogue with, Booker T. Colman, also known as Kaba Kamene, the educator, the educational consultant, the professor, the author. Some of you may be familiar with him as he was on Hidden Colors, but we're delighted to be able to have him spend some time with us for our upcoming third annual Into Festival. And family, it doesn't stop there, because even though I gave you day one, which is going to be Sunday, August 4th, 4:30 to 8:30, doors open at 4. The next day, family, we're going to continue to celebrate, because from 12 to 6 on that Sunday, family, come on out. Here's some African drumming. Come on out. Here's some, speaking of empowerment, come on out, get some food, come on out, network, come on out. Be empowered. Check out the vendors in the African marketplace. Come on out and hear some poetry. Come on out and hear some hip hop. Come on out and hear the good vibes and positive energy that will be there on that second day. So family, I can't stress it enough. The music is going to be provided by DJ Floyd Waheed Aaron. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity. And so tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your loved ones. It's going to be a day of empowerment. So with that being said, family, we have Booker T. Colman, also known as Kaba Kamene, with us. We are so delighted and glad to have you with us. Kaba Kamene, welcome to our broadcast this evening. Talk to me, Kaba Kamene. How you feeling today?
Hotep to my brother Sankofa, thank you so much for inviting me into the Temple of New African Thought. And I'm just looking forward to this event. As you know, we've spoken over the past months, and even longer than that, preparing for a visit to Baltimore, Maryland. I call it Tom Mary. And so I'm looking forward to returning. Tom Mary, the happy land. So I'm really looking forward to returning back and sharing time with the family in Baltimore. And I'm just happy also to be here. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate both brothers, Asar Sr. and Asar Jr. And to all of those panelists that are going to be sharing time. I'm just looking forward to it because we're talking about issues that we really have to start getting into. So I'm just appreciative of this opportunity, and I'm glad to be here with you now.
Absolutely, absolutely, indeed. And so, you know, we go back, Kaba Kamene, we go back and, by you being able to take part in our upcoming Into Festival, it's just a sign of how our relationship has grown and matured, the relationship that you've had with our family here in Baltimore. So we appreciate the work that you continue to do, and we appreciate you, being able to take part in our festival. And we look forward to continuing to connect with you, to continue to build and to continue this relationship furthermore into the future, my brother.
No question about that. And also, just to highlight Brother Imhotep Fatiyu, he also organized, he and his organization organized a visit that I had a chance to come to Baltimore. So I'm calling out to all those that came out to that conference on the Three Kings. I remember that they had the great Dr. Mwalimu Baruti and my hero, my intellectual big brother, Dr. Obata Shaka, and myself.
All right.
And we visited Baltimore, and we had a phenomenal time. In fact, brother has brought me in twice to the Baltimore community. So I'm encouraging the Baltimore community to come on out and let's have these discussions, because the time that we're living in is an anointed time.
Yes.
It's an appointed time. It's a very important time. The stars are crossing. We are now at a point where we are into the celebration of the Kizi Uzi. The stars are crossing right now as we go through this latter part of July. And as we go in, this is when Sirius is about to make its mention into the heavens. So this is an astronomical, cosmological, social, anointed time for us as a people to rise. So let us rise. Let's come together.
Absolutely. Let us rise. Let us come together. And actually, you remember when you took part in that very powerful event, that very powerful discussion. I definitely remember it. And, you said something key. You said that now was the time to rise. Now was the time to rise. And when we speak about healing, and taking it back to the theme, breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. That process is not always an easy process. That process is not always an easy process to heal, because there may be thought processes that we may have, or there may be habits that we may have, or things that we may cling to that may keep us comfortable from being able to really tap into our greatness to be the best us that we can be. So I just want to know from you, and as we were talking even before the broadcast, I know you're not going to go in too heavy, too deep, because that's what the N2 Festival is for. You'll be speaking on Sunday, the second day, and we'll have a panel discussion around it. But there may be some tuning in who may not know you or be familiar with you, and I'm sure there's some or many that are. But I just want to ask you, from your perspective, when we talk about reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits, what does that look like? And from your perspective and your vantage point, what do you think that's going to take for us to be able to reclaim our minds, bodies, and spirits?
I honestly believe, Brother Sankofa, that it's a process.
Okay.
One of the things in studying the way in which someone will oppress you, I use the work of Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, and I also use a very interesting excerpt from the book that came out as a movie. It's called Stargate. Came out in the 80s. And I remember I was so fascinated by this story that I normally, when I get fascinated with a story in a movie, I try to find out if there's a book that's been written. And I found the book. And this is a story. Of course, it's taken out of context. They don't understand what they're talking about as it relates to Kemet, but they're talking about Amun. That it's centered around Amun. And now from the Kemetic perspective, we know Amun Ra. They give him a demonic personality. They got to do that. But what was interesting is the hold that he had on the people's minds, the way in which he controlled them. In the book, as I read it, they said that when they were talking about this particular entity, in order to control the people and in order to oppress a people, you give the people a myth, you get them to believe the myth, and then you get them to form the habit of believing the myth. And while it's always the last developed, it's always the hardest to get rid of, which is the habit. And you mentioned habit earlier. And the concept is quite simple. We as a people, and you see, we have to study what happened to us as a people. One of the things that we have to understand is that the great majority of Africans stolen from Africa were children. They were not grown adults. They were children. Okay. These children were then brought to the Caribbean and bred, slave breeding, enslaved people's breeding after they kidnapped them. And those children born in the Caribbean were then brainwashed. And subsequent generations from that generation were further brainwashed by the stories that developed a concept of what we call white supremacy, which I don't agree with. I don't use white fragility, because that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a supreme people. We're dealing with a very fragile people who, because of their inferiority complex, attempt to make themselves much larger, much bigger, much smarter, much more powerful than they really are. Okay. And so what has happened to us as a people, in looking at the work of Dr. Naim Akbar, who actually wrote a book on breaking the chains.
That's right. He sure did.
Okay. Dr. Naim, and he wrote another book titled Know Thyself. And what he said is that you must deprogram, reprogram, but most importantly, you have to program. So you have to deprogram white fragility. You have to reprogram African history and culture, but you must program the future. Programming is the most important thing. Learning our history and our culture is a wonderful thing. It tells us that we are a people who we never knew we were. But what good is that history if we can't practically apply it in our life to do something in order to move us forward as a people?
Yes, indeed.
And
yes,
so
indeed.
As we look at breaking these chains, we have to understand a couple of things about the psychology. See, psychology, psyche, as Dr. Richard King tells us, is not the mind. Psychology is not the study of the mind. Psyche comes from the Kemetic word saku, which is soul. Psychology is the study of the soul. And as we understand who we are as a people, we will rebuild our soul. And little by little, step by step, by matter of degree, we will get this together. And I'm not going to overwhelm myself by trying to get to everybody. So I use the analogy of lighting a fireplace. When you light a fireplace, you light the log that's closest to you. You put it in the fireplace, and that log lights the second log, second to the third, third to the fourth. Pretty soon you've got a roaring fire, but you only lit the log that was closest to you. You only lit one log. So I'm looking to light that one log.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they will then create that fireplace that we're looking at, the fire of our Kemetic legacy.
You know, you said some powerful things, and what you're speaking to reminds me of, you know, at the Temple of New African Thought, some of the things that we discuss in our Ma'at circle. And so for those tuning in who might not be familiar with our Ma'at circle at the Temple of New African Thought, 3221 Bel Air Road, Sunday, 11 o'clock. It's a very significant aspect of our Njia fellowship. And Malefi Kedi Asante and Afrocentricity speaks about Njia being the way of our ancestors, the way to restoring and putting us African people in the position of being victorious. But nevertheless, you know, that psyche, you know, or what you said, Kaba Kamene, the soul piece, you know, that is something that is very important. And many times when it comes to this Ma'at piece and knowing how great we are, we theoretically might know this, and history tells us this, but applying this in real time. So I'm going to ask you, you know, in terms of what you would say to what that would look like is how we would apply, you know, these lessons in this process, as you said, so we can be able to bring about and restore that greatness that already resides within us.
Well, you know, to me, my brother Sankofa, it comes in many different forms.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a carbon copy of how it looks. But what it looks like is a people who feel safe in their skin. It looks like no matter what you do in your life, as I raised my children, I never expected them to do what I do as it relates to my career. But what I did expect them to do is to always return back to their community and to contribute everything that they had learned to benefit their people. And so one of our daughters is into banking, and she is helping the community as it relates to understanding economics. Another daughter is a social worker, and she is working in the community, particularly with young African-American girls, developing their self-pride and their self-worth and their understanding.
Sure.
Our son is into marketing. He's into business, and he is working towards developing marketing strategies to bring folk forward, to develop them and to help them understand what they can do in marketing. I say that because you might be into computer science, you might be a nurse, you might be a doctor. It doesn't make a difference what you're into. Whatever you're into, Africanize it. Return back to your community. What it looks like is a lot of people who are doing great things, returning back to their community to assist others to do great things. Always give back to the community.
That's powerful. And I would say that is that's what we should be aiming for. And that's Ma'at applied, you know, as we say at the Temple of New African Thought. I know our minister Sar has shared with us, you know, in our sessions that how do we bring all the pieces of us together, you know, the mind, the body, the spirit, so we could operate in a harmonious fashion. And so having clear sense of direction and being able to, whatever it is that we put our focus or our efforts on, being able to take that and bring it back to our community. I would say that is something that's very, very important. So those who are tuning in or those who just tuned in, this is the live broadcast here And we have Booker T. Colman, also known as Kaba Kamene, and this is Marcus Sankofa Nix here. And so we're having a wonderful dialogue and discussion here. And so we want to make everybody aware, if you weren't already aware, that coming up on Sunday or Saturday, August 4th and Sunday, August 5th is going to be our third annual Into Festival. And the theme is going to be breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. Breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. So for day one on Saturday, August 4th, we're going to have an extensive panel discussion with various practitioners, scholars, activists, those who are putting in work in the community, who are all going to come from their particular area, from their particular field, and from their particular perspective. So that way we could bring it all together. So that's something that's going to be taking place. 4:30 to 8:30 is the time, family. Doors open at 4:00 p.m. And then the second day, we're going to be having day two of our third annual Into Festival, and that's going to be at 3221 Bel Air Road, Baltimore, Maryland, just like day one. And so on that next day, Sunday, August 5th, all right, you'll be able to partake in some workshops, Qigong, Tai Chi, which will be provided by our very own Sifu, Baba Asar, free massage, free reflexology will also be provided, African dancing, African drumming, there'll be vendors there. And Booker T. Colman also is going to be providing the keynote address there, and our very own beloved minister Sardinus Winkler is going to be providing some closing remarks. But it's going to be a day of empowerment. It's going to be a fun day. So bring the family, bring the friends, bring the loved ones, and that family will be 12 o'clock to 6:00 p.m. So you definitely don't want to miss out. It's going to be very, very fun. It's going to be a celebration to remember. So we're excited about that, and it's going to be a grand occasion. Nothing short of a victory, nothing short of success. Isn't that right, Kaba Kamene?
No question, brother. As we speak, we are victorious. The fact that we're still around, we're victorious.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that mindset, even seeing the victory or seeing what we can do and building on our strengths is very, very important. And so, you and I have had conversations, and one of the things that can happen is when the people have been oppressed, then they can start to adopt a pessimistic or a negative outlook. They can see things from a more so deficit viewpoint. And so that could create an imbalanced mindset. And so that is something that if we want to bring about this healing process and reclaim our minds, bodies, and spirits, the way we think, as you've already alluded to, is something that's very important. So, speak to that, and maybe perhaps what you would say to that. And that's what I've noticed through my walk working with some of our people. What about yourself?
When I, working with children, as I've done here in New York City, as you know, that's my background. I retired from the New York City Board of Education after 31 years, 3 months of working with our community and with our children, South Central Bronx. And I've noticed the genius in us as a people. And I've seen what we go through. And one of the things I've come to realize is to back up off our people and attempt to move away from being judgmental. We're all going through things, all of us by matter of degree. I have had a chance to see the level of pain that some of our people are going through. A pain that I may not feel, but if I have some form of understanding of what it must have been like, then I have a sense of empathy for our people, to understand and to respect that we all are doing the best we can with what we have. And I've attempted throughout my life in that sensitivity to walk with our people, to let them know it's going to be all right, that I understand what's going on. You know, in the movie Django, there was a discussion at the table. I think Leonardo DiCaprio was talking about that part of the brain that made Africans enslaved. There's a particular scene where he's talking about that part of the brain that enslaves a person. That actually exists. It's called the amygdala. Amygdala. We'll get deeper into this as we go into the weekend. So I don't want to give too much away, because otherwise we'll be doing the presentation.
Sure thing.
But I just want our community to understand that there is a place in our brain known as the amygdala. It's in the limbic system of the brain, and it is the house of the emotions.
Yes.
And in the amygdala, everything that you have a facial expression for, sadness, happiness, shock, anger, fear, everything you have a facial expression for, it emanates out of the amygdala.
Absolutely.
And what has happened is that the assault on us in the street by the police, or even each other, the assault on our women, the assault on our personality. You see, the first thing Dr. Clark used to always tell us, if Europeans returned to Africans, the first thing they stole from Africans, they would return you to you. Because the first thing they stole was you. And not only that, but after they stole you from Africa, they stole Africa from you. So one of the things that we should work on in understanding is that when we return back into ourselves, and when we lose this consistent and constant assault on our mind, body, spirit, and soul, when we come to understand the reason why they're doing this to you is to keep you in a state of fear, false evidence appearing real. The illusion. If they keep you under the umbrella of fear, the person that is having the fear does not have the ability to go on the offense because they're so busy on the defense. So if they keep you on the defense, you can't go on the offense. But once you realize who and what they are and why they're doing what they're doing, then you can strategize as to how to liberate and emancipate yourselves. And when that happens, it's a very straightforward process, Brother Sankofa.
Absolutely, it is. It is very straightforward. And our minister Sar teaches, about the amygdala and, just being in constant, being on guard, and how, as what you said, you can't, you can't make the best decisions or operate with a clear brain whenever there's a constant state of alertness or a constant state of being on guard. And that is something that is very, it's a critical piece of trauma, the level of trauma, that us as a people have undergone and continue to undergo is a lot. And so, as you were speaking to that, I was thinking of Minister Sar, who's shared that with us. He's a psychotherapist, and that's awesome. And it's just another example of why we're glad to have you join us for our Into Festival, because what it is that you speak to, and even what it is that we speak to at the Temple of African Thought, is in alignment. It's connected, and so that's a beautiful thing. Definitely a beautiful thing. And there are different things that we can do to be able to move past that trauma. There's different things that we can do, whether it's seeking counseling, or whether that is drumming or dancing or exercise. But, one of the things that also has been mentioned by our Mensasar is those mirror neurons, those things that have to be rewired and reframed and reshaped. Because, Dr. Naeem Akbar, as you said, African culture and history is so important. And what we've been able to expose ourselves to it and read out of the books is important. But there's still some stuff we got to deal with. There's still some things we have to deal with. Families haven't talked to each other in years. Fear is one of the biggest hustles that there is. I have to pay the bills. What if I don't pay the bills? If I go down the street, am I going to get robbed? Or, afraid to go to school because of a shooting? It's constant. So that's why, having events like this Into Festival is going to be so important, because it's going to help to be able to recenter us. It's going to help be able to heal us, and it's going to serve as a mechanism to be able to help us reclaim our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. And so you, have done tremendous work, especially dealing with our children. That's definitely something that our children are, they go through a lot as well too. So my next question for you is, when we look at how we can go through this process and what that's going to take, could you speak to the importance of going through this process as a collective, as opposed to by ourselves? Because and I know that a lot of times, if we have our pain, as you mentioned, if we have our hurt, sometimes we might want to deal with that ourselves. So what's the importance and significance of going through this process in a collective sense?
What becomes important is that collectively we understand what it is that we're going through. People say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink.
Okay.
What I say is, before you even try to bring the horse to water, you should make the horse realize that it's thirsty.
Okay.
Because if the horse came to realize that it was thirsty, the horse would tell you, come on my back, I'm taking you to the water.
Okay.
So that what we're doing with our people, we're not explaining why this is important and what can happen if you experience this. And the first way to do this is by leading by example.
All right.
To show people the excitement. I try to show the excitement of being an African. I try to show the benefits of knowing this. Everybody wants to be successful. There are two things. Dr. Edwin Nichols, the brilliant clinical psychiatrist, he tells us there are two things that the human organism does. And that is, the first step is to survive. The second step is to thrive. But if they keep you in a survival mode, you never even think about thriving. So when you spoke about, I got to pay the rent, I got to put food on the table, I got to pay my bills, I got to do this, I got to do that. Not to mention, if I'm in the street and I'm driving my car and I see sirens and hear a police car, my first thought is, am I going to live today?
Sure.
You see, so that all of this creates a need to survive. Now, after you get those basic things done, after you get the roof over your head, and after you get the ability to pay your bills and to pay your rent and to put food on the table for your children and for your family and for the people with whom you are responsible for, then you can begin to think about thriving, which takes you to the next level of existence, which is beyond survival. This is where you can afford to spend hours reading, or you can afford to spend time going to and into ceremony, celebration, because now you're not trying to survive. There will probably be many people who would like to come to Into, but may not be able to because they got to work that day. Not just that day, but they done work Monday through Friday, but they got a second job that will help them Saturday, Sunday. So there are some people who are in survival mode. But if they were ever relieved of that concept, where they could find a way to survive and then thrive, they would not be it Into, they would be speaking it into, and they would be a very important part of the Into celebration. So I think the way we do this is to lead by example and to understand our people and what they're going through, and not to get too heavy in the judgment of them. I have a proverb: "Men not judge, lest judge I."
Now, you know what's interesting is I've noticed in our conversation you've mentioned this judgment piece a couple of times. So
Yes.
that must be something that is really you know, that sticks with you. You know, there must be something there. Well, why do you continue to speak to this judgment piece? Is this something that you've detected or that you've picked up in your experiences? Why do you refer to this judgment piece?
Because in my studies and in the development of my career and in my life, I have had the great pleasure of being exposed to some of the greatest minds that have ever walked the earth.
Okay.
From a John Henry Clark to a Dr. Yosef Ben Yekinin to Asa Hilliard to Naeem Akbar to Richard King, John G. Jackson. I work with Chancellor Williams. I could go through the list of my great fortune in my life. And sometimes when we get to this place in our life,
yes,
we look to other people and become sanctimonious. We look to other people and we wonder, well, if I could do it, so can you. That's not fair. Because just because I could do it, I was blessed in my life with certain things. I grew up in a project. I grew up with the same demands on my life. I grew up with the same drugs around me. I grew up with the same type of negative energy around me. So I'm not separating myself. I grew up in a project here in New York City. I know what that struggle is like. I watched my parents struggle. I know what it took for them to survive and to bring up their two children, my older sister and myself. But I have never returned back to the community with the interpretation that I'm going to judge you. There's too much judgment going on amongst us as a people. There's a lot of put downs. And our people are doing the very best they can with what they have. Whether it's going to church or whether it's going to mosque, our people are holding tenaciously onto things that help them survive. And for many of our people, it's religion. And when they hold on tenaciously to religion, they're doing it for reasons that allow them to live to the next day, just like our ancestors on the plantation. And so my approach towards them is an approach of presenting to them another way of life. I look at people in general, not just Black folk, but people in general. They build their life and they scaffold their life. They protect their life from falling. And I look at it like a house on stilts.
Okay.
Weak stilts. Before I would knock those stilts down, because I know the only thing holding that house up, the only thing holding that temple up are the stilts. So before I would want to knock those stilts down, I would rather put stronger stilts underneath the house and the weak ones will fall away. And that's what judgment does when we judge each other, when we talk about what we should be wearing or how our hair should be or the things that we're doing or the things that we believe in. Instead of attacking that, instead of telling them what they're doing wrong, I'd like to lead by example. I'd like to show them the richness of African culture, the richness of African spirituality, the idea that my God loves me, and I know my God loves me. And my God loves me because I love me, because I am God having a human experience. I want our people to understand that it's all right where you are. If you're still alive and you're Black in 2018, I got nothing but love and respect for you. Because for us to do what we're doing as a people, for all that they've done to us, and as much as they've tried to handicap us and put obstacles in our way, lie, steal, and cheat.
Yes.
For us to still be here, I got nothing but respect for us. So I love our people unconditionally. As a key to our relationship, to our people. When I visit prisons to speak to those who are incarcerated, it ain't about judging what you've done. That's why you're here. I know you're here. Now let's figure out how you can get out and never come back here again. And so that's what I look at judgment, because a lot of that happens in the schools. What you're wearing, the clothes that you wear, the way you get up. And sometimes our people, as brilliant as they may not have the wherewithal to have all the things that other children have. No judgment. I take you as you are, and I judge you by the content of your character. Yes, and so that's why judgment is so very important to me, because that's one of the first things that people that set people off. Oh, you think you all that? Well, that's because they think you're judging them. But when you love our people unconditionally, I don't care how you come to me. I'm just happy that you're here. Let's talk. Let's have some great fellowship.
You know, one of the things, to your point, to your points that you made, one of the things that continue to keep us in stressed out, that continue to keep us having the challenges and issues that we have, is because we try oftentimes to live up to someone else's expectations. And we could be even afraid of the judgment, and that's why the insecurities come. And I would say that's why, these fears and the anxiousness, that plays a part in all of that. And what I think about, Professor Kamene, is self-love. Because if you love yourself and you accept yourself first, then you could be able to accept everyone else. You could be able to embrace and give that unconditional love to those others. So I was thinking about that. And, oftentimes we have such a limited understanding of the situation. Like you said, we don't know what somebody's background is. We might not know what they went through. We might not know their story. We all have a story. And so oftentimes these judgments, like you were speaking to, they come before we even have all the information. And so I'm with you. That judgment piece is definitely critical. It's definitely important. Family. This is Marcus Sankofa Nix, alongside with Professor Booker T. Colman, also known as Hiawatha Kamene, the author, the scholar, the educational consultant. You may have seen him on Hidden Colors. You may have seen him speaking and empowering your community. But nevertheless, we have our third annual Into Festival, which is brought forth by way of our Temple of New African Thought, located in Baltimore, Maryland, family, located at 3221 Bel Air Road. Day one, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Doors open at 4 on Saturday, August 4th. $20, family. Make sure that you register on our website, templeofnat.org. We have a panel discussion. It's our first annual panel discussion. And so we have Ishmael Murray, herbalist, certified holistic health practitioner. We have Baba Imhotep Fatiyu, author, first urban philosopher, founder of Pan-African Liberation Movement. We have Dr. Henry Gregory, psychotherapist, author, scholar. We also have Sifu Asar Winkler Sr., healing practitioner and martial arts instructor, and he's also the Baba of our very own minister, Dennis Asar Winkler. Dr. Maxie Ragland will also be on the panel, who is a psychotherapist and an author. Dr. Jared Ball, scholar, educator, social-political commentator, and Sister Kenyatta Macon Moon, educator and founder of Instroma Academy, and David Murphy, activist and publisher of National Black Unity News, and the one, the only Booker T. Colman, Hiawatha Kamene is also going to be on that panel. And the next day, he's going to be giving us the keynote address. And the theme is breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. So that is very, very important. And so come on out for a weekend of healing, growth, and empowerment, and celebration and fun. And the very next day, family, on Sunday, August 5th, from 12 to 6 o'clock, we're going to pay homage to our ancestors. We're going to sing, we're going to dance, we're going to support our vendors, and we're going to eat. We're going to laugh. We're going to have fun. Come get a massage. Come take part in a Qigong Tai Chi workshop. Come be inspired by a martial arts demonstration by our very own Spirit of Kemet Internal Martial Art Academy. Let the rhythm and the vibration from the drum bring about the healing process as you need it to do so. So come on out, be empowered. Come on out and let's socialize in a positive way. Come on over to 3221 Bel Air Road, Baltimore, Maryland. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, family. Put it on your calendar. Those who are viewing, those who are tuning in, those that are listening, we all have a part to play. So we definitely would appreciate if you could, hop on our website, templeofnat.org or consciousblackbusiness.com, and register. Or also go to Facebook and, like our posts, share the word, help us get the word out. We have an event set up there. We have Conscious Black Business Studios, Conscious Black Business Network, and Temple of New African Thought. We have pages there. And if anyone has any questions with all the information that I'm giving you, that's all right, family. Just dial these digits 410-717-6361. Or you could dial 443-333-2970. All right. So you definitely want to hop on that, register as soon as possible. Don't delay. Don't procrastinate. It's $20 in advance, and it'll be more at the door, family. So take advantage. Bring the youth. Bring, come and bring somebody. But it's going to definitely be a very, very powerful event. You definitely don't want to miss out. You definitely don't want to miss out. So, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I'm enjoying this conversation. I really am, Professor Kamene. I'm really enjoying it, and appreciate the work that you continue to do, because the road may definitely not always be easy, but riding high on the energy and tapping into what our ancestors have given us could definitely propel us to move forward. So that's definitely very, very important. One of the things that I was thinking about, this may be the final question for our conversation, because those who want to get more and hear more, or Professor Kamene, they're just going to have to come on out to our N2 Festival for more. But one of the things that I was thinking about are these ideologies that we may have, and or you mentioned religion, right? And how we oftentimes it can be divisive. It can further divide us as a people. And you have situations where brothers and sisters can't even have a simple conversation because the vehicle or the path or the God that they subscribe to is different than the person that they're talking to. So we oftentimes hear about, coming together and, what that looks like. We all need to unify. We all need to unite. And we might not always agree on everything, but how can we still come together in spite of our ideologies or in spite of our different paradigms or our different perspectives? How can we still make that a reality?
Well, one of the interesting things, and I always tell, the story, my brother Sankofa, and to the community, is the fact that we can disagree and not be disagreeable.
Okay. All right.
And we can have unity without being unified. In Kemet, there were 42 nomes, cities. Nomes were cities. And every one of them had a different patron. But the reality is the way in which the nomes were set up is that while they were different, you might have the temple of Ptah, you might have the temple of Asar, you'd have the temple of Bastet, Sobek, all of them different patrons of that particular city. But our ancestors conducted their differences like parts of the body.
Okay.
They were dedicated to the holisticness of all 42 gnomes. In our own bodies, the finger does not do what the heart does. The liver does not do what the leg does. The toe does not do what the brain does. Every part of our body has its own function. But when they work in unison and in harmony, the whole body functions. So our ancestors understood. And this is why so many religions, from agnostic to Zoroastrianism, could branch off from the ancient spiritual systems that were evoked on the walls of the pyramid text and the coffin text and the Book of the Coming Forth Today by Night, the Memphite text, the Shabaka text, which is a rewritten version of the older Memphite text. All religions come from that. That's my second book that I'm writing. And by the way, if somebody would like a preview of it, I've got a free e-course at my website, www.kabakamene.com, where they can download a 5-day e-course where I'm going over these various sections of this book that I'm writing titled Spirituality Before Religions. I'm not mentioning one religion. I'm not going to tell people Christianity came from Africa. The book is not going to say directly out of Africa. I'm not going to talk about Hebrewism coming out of Africa. But by the time people read that book, they'll understand that no matter what religion you may belong to, your scripture is on the walls or on the texts of ancient Kemet that came out of the minds of African people. And so what I'd like to tell our people is to understand that what you're doing is rich. There may be a difference, but that difference makes it exciting. It's only when we're different that I can learn. If you and I are talking and everything that you and I say to each other, we agree, there's no growth. There's reaffirmation, but there's no growth. But if you say, yo, brother, why don't you check it out from this perspective? You're making me grow because you're making me look at something from a different perspective, which to me is very healthy. So I find difference being healthy. Our problem is we're living in very vicious, vile times. We're living under the yoke of oppression. And so therefore our attitude is oppressive. And so we just got to calm our stuff down and listen to each other. Brother Sankofa, I've worked with people that can't stand my guts. And I couldn't stand them either. But the bottom line wasn't my personal feelings towards them. The issue was moving our people forward. And I've worked with people that despite they didn't care for me on a personal level, they respected what I could bring to the issue. And in I doing that with them, we were able to work together to get the issue resolved. I'd like to tell you that afterwards, we started liking each other, but there were times we still couldn't stand each other. But that's all right. It is possible for good people not to get along with each other. See, we have this impression that if you're a good person, good people get along. That's not always true. Sometimes chemical rub us the wrong way.
So that might be a myth. You might have to debunk then, huh?
Yeah. You just don't know. Sometimes people may grow on you, but I don't assume that I have to like you. I must love you. But we don't always like each other. And that's another myth that we're getting caught up in because we need to, we're always trying to say, yo, man, I love you. But sometimes we don't get along as human beings. And that's all right. You don't have to. But if we have grown to the point where it's the issue that's important, it's not important about me liking you or you liking me. It's about us working together for moving our people forward and to be able to be successful in the issue. As opposed to the personality. We get caught up in the personality as opposed to the issue. And so one of the things that we have to start to do as we're living in this world right now, it is important that we begin to become issue-oriented as opposed to personality-driven. And to be able to work together in harmony to get the job done. And if by chance our relationship should grow, That's fantastic. But if it doesn't, that's all right too. It doesn't have to be that way. And we're living during times now, man, that we better get ourselves together. Because as you're watching what's happening in the world today, no matter how much they may disagree with somebody, when it comes to their survival, they will stick together and they will lie, steal, and cheat and tolerate those that do. But we, being so honest and open, we'll drop the truth on people, and then they'll use that to separate us further. So we have work that we have to do, and it's a strategy, and we have to move forward in a positive and enlightening way. That's the only way we're going to move forward. And once we get here, we also have to understand that we have work to do. We have got to clean this water that has been polluted, clean the air, clean the land. We have a lot of work we have to do. We have to become one with nature again. Nature's not very happy right now. And when nature, there's no reason why humans have to be on Earth. In fact, the Earth would be better off without us. And we have to understand there was a time when humans were not on the Earth. In fact, for billions of years, humans were not on the Earth. And there's no reason why we have to remain here if we start acting up, because the Earth will get rid of us. The heavens will get rid of us. We have to understand something about the way in which life is. There have been forms of living entities on this earth that no longer exist, but they were on the earth for millions of years at one time. As human beings, when we lived amongst ourselves and we lived in respect for nature, the neteru, when we lived under that harmonious with nature, it was heaven on earth. But then there came amongst us a people who knew not the Creator, and they polluted everything that they touched. And now we're living in the end of that time. And if anybody wants a good book to read to sort of kind of get hip to what's going on, go back to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he wrote The Fall of America. And understand what's happening on the planet right now. This is a very divine time right now. It's a very important time, but it's divine. And it's divine because there is a person amongst us that is leading the most evil of all things on the earth. And the world is watching this. And it's important that we understand that we have got to start to raise our young people to understand the difference between what is Ma'at and what is Ishfet. Ma'at is the righteous road, and Ishfet is the road that you're on when it's not righteous. And right now, many of us are on Ishfet either by choice or by force. And so I'm looking for this Into celebration, this Saturday and Sunday of great cheer and fellowship, to come one with our community and to walk together to come with some solutions as to how we are going to break these chains of psychological enslavement.
Professor Kamene, well put and well said. And as I've said already numerous times on this broadcast, on this show, glad to have you here this evening for this discussion. This is only the beginning. This is only the start, because as you and I both have already articulated, our Into Festival is going to be a wonderful occasion of coming together, of healing, of oneness, understanding ourselves, and being able to get realigned with ourselves to get healthy and to be able to become better. And so for all those who have been tuning in, we are glad that you have decided to tune in with us. And so if you've tuned in, we encourage you to listen to it again. We encourage you to get something that you might not have, every time you watch something, you get something different the next time that you didn't see the previous time. Share the word. Go to our websites, templeofnat.org, consciousblackbusiness.com. See the work that we do in the community. Stay connected with us. Our Into Festival family, as you just heard Professor Kamene say, coming up, 3221 Bel Air Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Doors open at 4 o'clock p.m. Saturday, August 4th. $20 more at the door. We're going to be having a panel discussion, all centered around our theme for the year: breaking the chains of psychological slavery, reclaiming our minds, bodies, and spirits. We're going to have an extensive panel of 9 scholars, practitioners, and activists who are going to come from their field and provide from their perspective what they feel can help contribute to us being able to reclaim our mind, body, and spirit. And that panel discussion will be facilitated and moderated by yours truly, Marcus Sankofa Nix. And on the next day, Sunday, August 5th, from the time of 12 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m., we are going to fellowship. We are going to celebrate. We're going to hear a message of empowerment from Professor Hiawatha Kamene, also known as Booker T. Colman. We have our very own minister, our Dennis Winkler, who is going to provide some closing words. And all in between that will be fellowship, will be dancing and drumming, workshops, performances, vendors, good vibes, good energy, positivity, healing. Come by plane, come by train, come by boat, walk, jog, skate, bicycle, fly. There's nothing beyond what it is that we can do as African people. There are no limits other than those that we accept and acknowledge. So DC, head on over. Philly, head on over. New York, Virginia, East Baltimore, West Baltimore, North Baltimore, South Baltimore, North Carolina, suburbs, wherever you happen to be. You heard Booker T. Colman, Professor Kamene say it. Come as you are. No judgment will be taking place at this Into Festival. Come on out. Invest in yourself. You deserve it, family. You are worth it. Please do not delay, do not neglect, or hesitate, procrastinate to register. Hop on our website right now. Your first line of business after this broadcast, family. Register for this event. I guarantee it will be worth it. So, with that being said, any closing words to close out our conversation for the evening, Baba?
Well, Brother Sankofa, you've said it all. And what I want to just say is, come on out, family. This is a very unique time. You are in the DMV, so I know that you understand what I'm talking about. It's time for us to come together and talk. So from wherever you are, I encourage you to come out. Have fellowship. We must come together now. This is the time. This is the anointed time. This is the appointed time. It is important that we come together. So I encourage you to come on out. And I also encourage you to get a sense of the work that I'm doing and some of the subjects that we'll cover. Go to my website, www.kabakamene.com, and download my free e-course and my study guide. And we will keep in contact with each other over time to let you know what's coming up and what's going on. And it's just important for us to do this now. I thank you, my brother Sankofa, for this opportunity. I thank my brother Asar Jr. and my brother Asar Sr. I send my regards to all of the panelists that I will have the honor and the privilege of being able to present with that Saturday. I look forward to all of the community that I will have a chance to meet with on that Saturday, and then the next day, Sunday. We have an important message to give. And if anything you've enjoyed listening to this evening, if we've said something that is meaningful to you, I guarantee you I got a lot more stuff to talk to you about. So come on out, family. And in honor of the Temple of New African Thought, I thank you for this opportunity. And I look forward to that weekend of August 4th, August 5th. Just keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till we win.
And with that, family, we say ashe. See you at the N2 Festival. This is Marcus Sankofa Nix, along with Booker T. Colman, also known as Kaba Kamene. We're signing off. Catch you at the event. Peace and power, family. Peace and power. Have a wonderful evening. Awesome conversation. Peace.